The music stopped. Someone laughed. And that's when I realized everyone was staring at my face. Not my drink. Not my suit. The makeup. I was wearing makeup at the office party. The moment I saw my reflection in the bathroom mirror, my heart skipped a beat. The fluorescent light made my foundation look almost unreal, smoothing out the anxiety that had been etched on my face all week. I wasn't supposed to be here like this, not in a pencil skirt, not with soft pink lipstick, not with mascara tracing the curve of my lashes. My office self, the professional I had spent years cultivating, would never recognize this person staring back at me. And yet, I couldn't look away. It had started as a joke, a dare whispered over leftover cake at lunch. "Bet you won't wear makeup to the party tonight," a coworker had said, smirking. Something in me had snapped. Not the part of me that obeyed rules or deadlines, but the part that had always lingered in the shadows, hiding a curiosity I didn't dare name. By the time the party started, I had done more than dab on lipstick. I had transformed. My usual gray suit was gone, replaced by something soft, flowing, almost daring. And now, standing here with trembling hands and a heartbeat loud enough to drown out the music echoing from the main hall, I realized the risk. One wrong glance, one raised eyebrow, and everything could shatter. Yet, I felt alive. I took a deep breath and traced the curve of my cheek with my finger, like I was checking if this person even belonged to me. Every second stretched, filled with the unspoken fear of discovery and the secret thrill of freedom. I didn't notice the knock at the bathroom door until a voice whispered, "Hey, you okay in there?" My stomach plummeted, and the mascara brush trembled in my hand. "Yes," I managed to whisper, though my voice sounded alien to my own ears. "Just freshening up." The door cracked open slightly, and a shadow fell across the mirror. My reflection fractured, multiplied by the glass and the faint steam rising from the sink. In that moment, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. If I was caught now, I couldn't hide. But somehow, the thought didn't scare me the way it should have. Instead, it made my chest tighten with an unfamiliar excitement. When I finally stepped out of the bathroom, the party was in full swing. Twinkling lights bounced off the glass walls, the faint scent of champagne mingling with perfume and the nervous hum of colleagues pretending not to be judging each other. I felt exposed, like a secret being carried in plain sight. Each step in my heels was a negotiation between fear and thrill, my heart hammering in rhythm with the bass of the music. I spotted familiar faces, the ones who knew me only as the quiet, reserved guy in the corner cubicle. My palms sweated as I wondered if they could see through the surface, if my carefully chosen outfit, my subtle blush, my painted nails, were all readable like a confession. I wanted to run, to hide, to crawl back into the old uniform of buttoned-up shirts and khakis, but part of me refused. This version of me, soft and bold and daring, had taken up space. And it refused to leave. A coworker, Claire, always bubbly, always teasing, came up with a glass of punch in hand. Her smile was warm, curious, harmless. "Wow, you look different," she said, tilting her head as if she were trying to decode a puzzle. My chest tightened. Different. That word, simple and casual, struck deeper than an insult could. "Yeah," I managed, forcing a laugh that felt like it might crack. Just felt like trying something new. Her eyes lingered a moment too long, scanning, questioning, maybe approving. And in that pause, I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflective surface of the punch bowl, my painted lips curving nervously into a smile, the soft shimmer of eyeshadow catching the dim light. The reflection wasn't me, and yet it was. And for the first time, I realized I didn't want to be someone else anymore. I wanted to be this. But then, the weight of the office, the gossip, the judgments, the unspoken rules, pulled at the edges of my mind. Could they accept this? Could I accept this if they didn't? The room felt smaller, the music louder, and my pulse raced as I tried to anchor myself to some version of normalcy. But normal had always been a cage, hadn't it? A laugh behind me startled me. I turned, and another colleague was walking toward me, a playful smirk on his face. The moment hung like fragile glass between us, waiting to either shatter or hold. I forced a casual smile, hoping it would pass as charm rather than nervousness. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But the higher pitch betrayed me, and I felt it immediately, a tingle of shame and exhilaration racing through my chest. The co-worker's smirk widened, a mixture of amusement and intrigue lighting up his eyes. He tilted his head, as if noticing something I had spent years hiding. "New look, huh?" he asked lightly. "I didn't know you were into this." The words hit me like a jolt of electricity. Into this. Into what, exactly? Into myself, into this fragile new version of me? Into a side of me that had always lingered quietly, ashamed of its own desires? I didn't answer right away. My tongue felt heavy, my thoughts scrambling. "I thought I'd try something different," I finally murmured, hoping the vagueness would shield me. But it didn't. Every movement felt magnified. My hair, my hands brushing against the fabric of my blouse, the subtle sway of my skirt. I could feel eyes on me, and yet no one had said the words that would make me run. Not yet. Claire appeared again, as if sensing the tension. She placed a hand lightly on my shoulder. "You look amazing," she said, and the sincerity in her tone made my stomach flutter with an emotion I couldn't name. Relief? Pride? Maybe both. Her words were like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe me. But then, laughter from across the room snapped me back into reality. The safe illusion cracked. A group of colleagues were pointing subtly, whispering. I caught fragments, weird, bold. "Did you see him?" Enough to make the blood drain from my face. I wanted to shrink, to disappear, to run to the bathroom and scrub off every trace of myself that dared to exist outside the shadows. Instead, I took a shaky breath and straightened my posture. My reflection from the punch bowl earlier, the version of me that felt real, flashed in my mind. This wasn't about hiding. This wasn't about approval. This was about me, finally stepping out into the light, even if it scared the hell out of me. I raised my chin and walked toward the crowd, each step a battle between fear and courage. My heels clicked against the floor like a heartbeat, announcing that I existed, that I wouldn't vanish quietly. And in that moment, I realized something terrifyingly liberating. Being seen was both the risk and the reward. I edged closer to the group, feeling every eye on me like invisible fingers pressing against my skin. My stomach twisted with a mix of dread and exhilaration. Every laugh, every whisper felt amplified, yet somehow the spotlight wasn't just on me, it was on this version of me I'd long buried. The soft curves of my blouse, the delicate shimmer of my eyeshadow, the subtle curl of my hair, they weren't costumes. They were me, or at least a part of me I had never dared to show. One of the co-workers, Mark, leaned in, smirking. "You really went all out, huh?" His tone was teasing, but not cruel. Just curious. And somehow, that curiosity was more dangerous than mockery. It held the power to expose me completely. I felt my pulse thumping in my ears, my fingers clutching my drink like a lifeline. "Yeah," I managed, forcing a laugh. "Thought I'd experiment a little." His gaze softened for a moment, and I caught a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Maybe he had secrets too, I thought, the ones hidden behind neat ties and buttoned-up shirts. But before I could dwell, someone behind me let out a chuckle. I turned slightly, catching sight of Claire again. She winked, leaning in. "Ignore them. You look incredible. Honestly." Her words were warm, like a patch of sunlight breaking through gray clouds. I wanted to believe her, but doubt clung stubbornly. What if this was all a joke to them? What if my colleagues saw a man playing dress-up, not a person stepping into their own truth? I moved away slightly, pretending to inspect the snack table, but my reflection in the silver tray caught my eye. There I was, painted lips, curled lashes, soft fabric hugging my frame. The mirror in the bathroom hadn't lied. This was me. And for a terrifying second, I realized I liked this version of myself. A sudden toast erupted across the room, glasses clinking, voices raised in cheer. My heart leapt. People were celebrating, laughing, talking, and in that chaos, I found a small, quiet courage swelling inside me. Maybe acceptance wouldn't come immediately. Maybe whispers would follow me for days. But for now, I was alive. Really alive. And then, the unthinkable happened, a familiar voice calling my name, clear and unmistakable. It was my manager, Jessica. The thought of her walking toward me made my stomach knot like a roller coaster's first drop. She was all sharp lines and authority, the kind of person whose opinion could make or break you in a single meeting. And here I was, standing in heels, a skirt swishing around my knees, mascara slightly smudged from nerves. "Hey," she said, her tone neutral but her eyes scanning me with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "I didn't expect to see you like this." The words hit harder than any insult could. Like this. Like what? Like someone bold? Like someone visible? Like someone finally daring to be themselves? I forced a nervous smile, brushing my hair behind my ear. "Yeah, it's, a bit different tonight," I stammered, my voice quivering despite my best effort. She tilted her head, studying me, and for a moment I thought I might collapse under her gaze. But then, something surprising happened. Her lips curved slightly, almost imperceptibly, into what might have been a smile. "You look good," she said, the words deliberate. "Really good." I blinked, caught off guard. Relief and disbelief collided inside me, a strange, warm sensation that made my hands loosen around my drink. Good. Me. For the first time in my life, someone in authority, not just being polite, not just tolerating me, actually affirmed this side of me. Thank you," I whispered, my voice almost drowned out by the music, yet loud enough in my mind to echo for hours. She nodded, her attention already moving elsewhere, and I realized I was trembling, not from fear, but from the intensity of the moment. That tiny acknowledgement, brief as it was, felt like a lighthouse in the storm I had been navigating for years. I glanced around the room, suddenly aware of how exposed I really was. Yet the fear that had once clung to me like a second skin felt thinner now, permeated by a fragile, exhilarating pride. Maybe this was how it started. Small acknowledgments, fleeting smiles, tiny acts of acceptance. And just as I was letting myself breathe, a sudden burst of laughter behind me reminded me how precarious this balance still was. Not everyone had seen my courage as I had. The tension returned, prickling along my spine like electricity. But I lifted my head, straightened my shoulders, and decided I wouldn't shrink. Not tonight. Not ever again. The music pulsed around me, a heartbeat I could almost sync with. I felt the sway of my skirt with each step, the soft brush of fabric against my legs reminding me that I was walking a line between fear and exhilaration. I had survived the glance from Jessica, the scrutiny from my co-workers, and somehow, miraculously, I was still standing. I drifted toward the quieter side of the room, where the light dimmed and shadows pooled. The dimness felt safe, a temporary refuge where I could gather my thoughts. I caught my reflection in the darkened window and studied myself silently. The person staring back was unrecognizable yet intimately familiar. Soft eyes, carefully shaped brows, delicate lips. Is this really me? I asked myself, voice barely above a whisper. A familiar voice broke my solitude. You okay? Claire had appeared beside me again, like some guardian angel who refused to leave my side. Her presence was grounding, her tone warm and curious. I hesitated, then nodded. I think so. Just a lot at once. She smiled gently, as if she understood without needing further explanation. "You're brave," she said simply. And the word lodged in my chest. Brave. I hadn't thought of myself that way in years. Not in the office, not anywhere. Brave had always been reserved for other people. But now, standing here, trembling slightly in heels, I realized that courage didn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispered in quiet steps, in holding your head high when the world expected you to hide. A small laugh escaped me, brittle but honest. Brave feels strange, I admitted. Good strange or bad? She asked, eyebrow quirked. Good, I whispered, and meant it. Good strange. That was exactly it. The fear hadn't gone, the anxiety still lingered like a shadow, but beneath it was something else, a spark of something I had denied for too long. And then, across the room, I noticed it. A small mirror propped against a wall, reflecting the party in a distorted, shimmering way. I walked toward it instinctively, my fingers brushing its edges. In the warped reflection, I could see myself twice, the familiar office me and this new, softer, braver version. Both existed, and yet neither diminished the other. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to choose. I touched the glass lightly, and the action felt symbolic, grounding me in this strange, thrilling, terrifying new reality. I could be both, I realized. I could carry the professional and the personal together, imperfectly, beautifully. And just as the thought settled in, a sudden commotion from the center of the room jolted me. Someone had spilled a drink, laughter erupted, and the fragile balance between fear and courage wavered again. The spill drew attention immediately, people rushing to grab napkins, laughing, teasing. I felt the familiar surge of panic, imagining someone noticing my trembling hands, my exposed self. But then I caught sight of Claire again, her eyes meeting mine, steady and reassuring. And in that small connection, I remembered that fear didn't have to control me. I walked back into the center of the party, letting my heels click with intention, letting my presence anchor me. Each step was a declaration. I existed, I belonged, I wasn't hiding anymore. The music thumped in my chest, syncing with the adrenaline coursing through me. It was intoxicating. A group of colleagues waved me over, chatting about work projects, mundane office gossip, but it didn't matter. I smiled, laughed at the right moments, and for the first time, I felt a strange confidence in my gestures, in the tilt of my head, in the soft laugh that now felt natural rather than forced. They weren't looking at me as a man in disguise, they were seeing me as me. A part of me still wanted to vanish, to slip away quietly and erase this whole experiment. But then I felt it again, that spark of pride, that quiet joy in my reflection, the one I glimpsed in the punch bowl earlier. It wasn't just about being seen. It was about being real. And then, a familiar tune floated from the speakers, the song that had been playing during one of our earlier office gatherings, the one that always made me sway slightly in my chair. Without thinking, I let my body move to it, slow and deliberate, skirt swishing gently. Eyes followed me, yes, some curious, some amused, some approving. And for the first time, I didn't care about judgment. I cared about this feeling, light, fragile, exhilarating. Someone laughed behind me again, louder this time. But it was different. It felt like life, like the chaos of the world acknowledging me without breaking me. I realized then that courage wasn't a single moment. It was a series of little choices, tiny steps into the light, over and over again. I glanced at the mirror again, catching my reflection in the corner of the room. The soft shimmer of my eyeshadow, the curve of my lips, the confidence now humming through my stance. It was no longer borrowed, no longer fragile. It was mine. And in that instant, I made a silent vow. I wouldn't hide again. Not tonight. Not ever. The night stretched on, and the initial tension slowly melted into a strange rhythm of acceptance. Conversations swirled around me, laughter, stories, clinking glasses, but somewhere in the middle of it all, I found a quiet center of myself. My reflection kept appearing in unexpected places, the polished tabletop, a glossy bottle of champagne, a window pane catching the faint glow of fairy lights. Each glimpse reminded me, this version of me wasn't a mask. It was real. I caught Claire watching me from across the room, her smile steady and knowing. She waved me over and I moved, heels clicking, heart hammering, not from fear this time, but from anticipation. The closer I got, the more I realized, I didn't need to explain, justify, or apologize. I only needed to be. "You're glowing," she whispered once I reached her. And just like that, the words settled over me, wrapping around my anxiety and smoothing it out. Glowing. That was exactly how I felt inside. Soft, fragile, but undeniable. I realized that for the first time in years, I wasn't performing for anyone. I wasn't hiding behind rules, expectations, or old versions of myself. I was simply here. A group nearby noticed me laughing, saw my skirt swish, and someone even complimented my makeup. Simple, casual, and yet it hit harder than anything else that night. The applause of acknowledgement, even in small doses, felt monumental. I wanted to laugh, cry, and spin all at once. And then it happened. A moment so ordinary yet so seismic. Someone bumped into me accidentally, spilling a small amount of punch onto my skirt. I froze, expecting the usual embarrassment, the whispered jokes, the pang of shame. But Claire laughed lightly and said, "It's okay. You're fine." And the warmth of her voice pushed back the fear. I looked down at the damp patch and, for the first time, simply smiled. The skirt was wet, the moment awkward, but I didn't care. Not really. Because tonight wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. It was about stepping into myself, fully, with all the risks, the stumbles, and the courage it took just to show up. And as I glanced at the mirror across the room, catching the faint shimmer of my lipstick and the soft highlight on my cheeks, I realized that the person staring back wasn't just someone experimenting. She was me, unapologetically, defiantly, beautifully me. The party seemed to blur around me after that. Faces, laughter, lights, all of it felt secondary to the quiet storm building inside. I realized I wasn't just surviving this experiment anymore. I was thriving in it. The old fears, the judgment, the whispers, the possibility of ridicule, were still there, lurking at the edges like shadows, but they had lost their power. I could feel it. The thrill of being fully seen, fully myself, was stronger than any fear. A few co-workers approached, clearly curious, asking questions about my look, my style, my makeup. I answered, cautiously at first, then with a growing confidence that surprised even me. My words came easier than I expected. My laughter came freer. I could see their surprise shifting into admiration, or at least respect, and it fueled a strange new energy inside me. I caught my reflection in the window again, this time noticing something subtle but profound. My shoulders, once hunched in self-consciousness, were relaxed. My chin was lifted, and my eyes sparkled with an unfamiliar courage. I touched the glass lightly, the cold surface grounding me, connecting the reflection to reality. I was no longer a shadow hiding behind rules and expectations. I was someone visible, present, undeniably alive. Then, a gentle voice pulled me from my reverie. "You look incredible," it said. I turned to find another colleague, someone I had barely spoken to outside of work emails. His tone wasn't teasing or mocking, it was sincere, almost reverent. The words hit me with a force I hadn't anticipated. To be affirmed like this by someone I respected, someone who didn't have to say anything, felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile, and felt my chest expand with a strange warmth. "Thank you," I said softly, feeling the truth of it resonate in my bones. The room faded slightly around me as I sank into the sensation of being seen without apology, being accepted without compromise. And in that still, magical moment, I realized, this night wasn't just an experiment or a dare. It was a turning point. The fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, they were still parts of me, yes, but they no longer dictated the terms of my existence. I had reclaimed something I didn't even know I'd lost. Myself. By now, the party had settled into a rhythm, the earlier chaos softening into chatter and laughter that felt less threatening and more human. I wandered to the side, noticing how differently I perceived the room now. Every reflective surface, mirrors, glass, polished metal, caught my gaze. Each reflection reminded me that I wasn't hiding, that the person staring back at me was real, tangible, and worthy of existing fully in this space. I found a quiet corner near the window, away from the center, and took a deep breath. The cold night air brushing against my face from the slightly open pane was invigorating. I touched my lips absent-mindedly, feeling the smoothness of the lipstick, and realized that these small details, the careful curl of my lashes, the soft shimmer of my blouse, weren't just about appearances. They were symbols of courage, tiny markers of identity I had long denied myself. Claire appeared beside me again, carrying 2 glasses of punch. She handed one to me with a smile that felt like permission. "You've come a long way tonight," she said softly. "I mean, look at you." I laughed, a little shaky but genuine. "Yeah. I didn't think I could do this. I thought I'd freeze, run, hide." My voice trailed off, swallowed by the quiet music in the background. "You didn't," she said firmly. "You're here. You're you. That's what matters." Her words struck something deep inside me. I realized that, for years, I had measured myself by what I thought others expected. But tonight, in this skirt, in these heels, in this makeup that I had feared would betray me, I had measured myself against my own courage. And I had passed. A laugh erupted somewhere in the room, followed by clinking glasses, and I felt a sudden rush of gratitude, not for the party, not even for the acceptance, but for the opportunity to finally step into the light without shame. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, surprising me with their intensity. They weren't tears of fear or regret. They were tears of recognition, acknowledgement that I had found a part of myself long buried, and for the first time, let it breathe. The reflection in the window shimmered one last time before the night fully embraced the room. And in that shimmer I saw not just one me, but the full spectrum. The quiet, reserved version of the office, the bold, daring self that had emerged tonight, and the endless possibilities stretching beyond this single evening. The night was winding down, but I couldn't bring myself to leave just yet. Something about the air, cool, electric, charged with possibility, kept me lingering. People had started drifting toward goodbyes, hugs, casual waves, but I stayed near the center, letting the room settle around me like a soft cloak. I realized the fear had not vanished completely. It lingered like a shadow, subtle but present. And yet, it no longer dictated my movements. I was moving with it, not against it. Claire found me again, leaning slightly against a table. "You look different," she said, a teasing glint in her eye. "But in a really good way. Confident. Alive." Her words made my chest tighten, not with anxiety this time, but with something unfamiliar. Pride. Real pride. I felt it ripple through me, warming my hands, my heart, my entire body. For the first time, I felt comfortable in my own skin, not as a mask or a disguise, but as the person I had longed to be. Someone waved me over for a final toast, and I walked toward them, steady and unshakable now. The music thumped softly, a heartbeat beneath my own, as I raised my glass with the others. The clink of glasses was louder than ever, resonating deep in my chest. And in that brief, fleeting moment, I felt a profound sense of belonging, not just here in this room but within myself. I caught a glance of my reflection one last time in a nearby mirror. It wasn't just the makeup, the skirt, the heels. It was the way I stood, the way my eyes held a quiet fire, the subtle curve of a smile that carried confidence, vulnerability, and honesty all at once. That reflection, so fragile, so bold, was no longer just a vision in the glass. It was real. I was real. And as the night drew to its close, I realized something that startled me with its simplicity. I didn't need anyone else's approval to exist fully. Tonight had been terrifying, exhilarating, humbling, but most of all, freeing. I walked toward the exit, each step a reminder that the world outside could see me, judge me, or misunderstand me, but it didn't matter anymore. I had found something permanent inside, a spark, fragile yet unbreakable, that I could carry forward into every reflection, every choice, every step of my life. The office lobby was quiet now, the music and chatter reduced to distant echoes behind me. I lingered by the reflective glass doors, studying the last glimmers of my own reflection. The soft shimmer of my makeup caught the dim light one final time, highlighting the curve of my lips and the shine in my eyes. I touched the glass gently, as if saying goodbye to the fear that had clung to me for years, while welcoming the courage that had taken its place. I thought back to the night's moments, the glance from Jessica, Claire's unwavering support, the laughter, the whispers, the tiny acts of acknowledgement that had once terrified me. Every step, every heartbeat, had been a choice, to hide or to reveal, to shrink or to shine. And tonight, I had chosen to shine. A deep breath filled me with a strange, calming exhilaration. I realized that the reflection wasn't just me, it was a promise. A promise that I could carry this version of myself into the future, a self that was soft and bold, hesitant and courageous, vulnerable yet undeniably strong. The mirror had always been my symbol, my recurring motif throughout this journey, but now it represented something more: acceptance. Self-acceptance. I straightened my shoulders and stepped out into the cool night air. The city lights twinkled like distant stars, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged. Not just in this world, not just in my office, but in my own skin. The fear hadn't disappeared completely, but it no longer had the power to cage me. I had glimpsed a life where I could exist fully, honestly, unapologetically. As I walked away from the building, heels clicking confidently on the pavement, I whispered to myself, almost as a mantra, I am here. I am real. I am me. And for the first time, the words didn't feel like a dare, a secret, or a risk. They felt like home. The night had ended, but my journey had just begun. And in that beginning, I finally understood. Being caught wearing makeup at the office party wasn't a mistake. It was liberation.